Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the Trading Rebellion. Apologies there, with your favorite analyst at Trade Chain. My name is Nick Mancini, joined by CJ and Monte, all of your favorites analysts at Trade the Chain. And we are here to talk about everything from crypto, equities, macro, and everything in between, just to set the stage. Let's go over where we are at in the crypto market. 1.08 trillion, up 3%. So that's actually a positive because we've been hovering around that low 1 trillion number for quite some time. Average sentiment across all cryptos, 52 out of 100. Total trading volume, 30 billion. That hasn't changed too much over the summer this year, but definitely want to see that ticking above 30 billion soon. Bitcoin and Ethereum, 3 and 4%. Effectively, Bitcoin sentiment up and Ethereum sentiment up to 66. So everybody's feeling bullish on the majors, and we even got an uptick in total tweet volume as well, showing that traders and shillers are active. And we both know when those guys get going, sometimes the market does as well. And a lot of green across all of the Trade the Chain dashboard, and a lot of stablecoin inflows today too, which I think is really interesting. CJ and Monte, 250 million added to exchanges today, actually a little bit more than that, but big boost today. So someone's buying today, and that's definitely what we like to see. So let's go ahead and move over to the macro side of life. DXY did pull back, and we circled those kind of overbought areas on Monday, kind of waiting for some sort of pullback to occur for relief for risk. We ended up getting that. So we're now back in, the standard RSI territory. So will we just bounce from 105.9 and move up towards 107? That'll be something we'll have to see, but nice little bounce occurring already today as equities jump a little bit. And obviously crypto had a massive boost. So still going to be watching this very closely into next week. And we also have PCE tomorrow. So PCE could
Nick?
definitely impact. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, since we are on the DXY, I was wondering if you could just show the chart of gold real quick, because it is, you might as well hit it before we go to PCE. It's quite extreme.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, feel free.
You've, I mean, you can just, you were already sharing, I believe.
Gold?
Yeah. Just GC.
I didn't have gold up, but I can pop it up.
Yeah, I hadn't really looked at it this week until now, but obviously following equities. And today I think it's even more notable. It's just like if equities don't go up and the dollar's down, like this is the ultimate failure day for gold, especially with DXY being down. But
yeah, a couple of traders that I know were calling shorts at this level, and I didn't take, but that's a heck of a drop.
Yeah, this has been one that we've been watching closely for the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a significant drop, and obviously coinciding perfectly, almost perfectly inversely with the dollar grinding higher. But even today, seeing that weakness in gold, while we're having weakness in the dollar, I think that validates gold shorts even further. So this weakness, I think it's beyond just DXY strength. At first, I was thinking maybe that just the DXY grinding higher, we see assets like gold pull back a bit. But with the DXY pulling back, we're not getting any real bounce whatsoever from gold. So that, to me, is a correlation breakdown. And that's one of the things that I look for when looking to enter a position.
Interesting to see as crypto rises. I mean, because Bitcoin is, a commodity. So, I mean, even though Gary Gensler didn't want to admit that in front of Congress yesterday, but very fascinating to see how these are reacting with crypto rising higher. So, but back to DXY, I know CJ has been tracking, a lot of the open interest and put call ratio. Is there any updates from our show earlier this week, CJ? Has anything changed or still business as usual from what you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing too complicated. It's just that we hit the highest level all of year, which was 1.3. So it's just a reflection of sentiments in the market short term. Obviously, COT data, once it comes in tomorrow, is going to be very interesting, but even that will lack a couple of the days where some of the most prominent selling occurred. And so if I were to just kind of guess, just based on feel, it feels like there are a lot of shorts that could potentially get caught here and squeezed if price does just continue pushing higher, at least in the short term for equities. I also have a couple trade setups we can talk about later in the show, but that was really the main thing about the put to call ratio. It's just a very prominent reflection of sentiment in the market currently.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were talking about that too, and I think you made a really good call out yesterday when that happened. Obviously, the timing was solid with some of those puts getting smashed today. But whenever we do obviously see that put call ratio spike up, what are we thinking for that? Let's kind of get rid of the chart and just kind of talk about that for a second too, because there's a couple of ways that you can interpret. You can. First one is, obviously protection. You just want to make sure that you're hedged in case there is any downside. And then there's obviously the people who are out of longs and just are now just getting short. And some of them are obviously getting short quite late. So do we think it's more of the protection side, or do we think it's more of the ape side to kind of make it black and white?
I think it's definitely more of the latter. Think about the entirety of this calendar year. You've been having people losing money because they've been bearish. They've been sidelined because they've been bearish. They've been expecting what we saw at the end of 2021 or 2022 to continue into this year. It did not do that. And now I think that we're seeing signs of weakness in the equity markets, and then also, the dollar up. I think it's pretty evident that bears are very eager to put some capital to work because they've basically been sitting on their hands for the last 8 months. And that's understandable, but from a crowded market perspective, it makes the trade very unfavorable. And it also sets up the possibility for us to squeeze even higher. And I think what is a likely scenario is that we kind of get this bearish to neutral consolidation where we slowly bleed out, where people who are buying way out of the money puts get punished because we don't go down as quickly as they expect us to. We don't go down with the same velocity at which we went up. If that happens, I see max pain for both the bears and the bulls, and the market tends to deliver max pain. That's just what it does.
Yeah, just to put some of that in context too, and I thought this was interesting yesterday, right when CJ posted that, we were just dipping under the 200 estimated moving average for the 1 day on S&P 500 futures. And then we jumped back up, and we just talked about that 4,200 level, I think, on Tuesday. And, a very common level that you're seeing, talked about on CNBC and Twitter. And we got down to 42.30. So if you're adding puts at 42.30 or shorting at 42.30 with targeting 4,200 after this massive move, I think then you need to get your head checked a little bit, because you're just trying to suck like the last % of the move out instead of actually trying to time where things may go next. And obviously we're not going to go straight down forever. History tells us that, and there's no real catalyst right now. So I think this was a natural place for the bounce. And if we hold this level, then it does, things look positive, at least for the first week or two in October, in my opinion. But we also, just to also add, where's the invalidation for that idea? We're hovering right around the weekly VWAP right now. And we've been just kind of bouncing, we bounced out of value. We're now back into value. And I was just talking with Monte about this. If this level fails and we continue to slide down, then, 4,200 makes a lot more sense. But right now it's holding. So I think this is going to be a critical level as we push into PCE tomorrow. And again, definitely going to see some volatility around that, because just like CPI, I think PCE is expected to rise and core PCE is expected to drop. So it's going to be one of those times where which number do you want to bet on? And for me, that's also tough when you're going to get topsy-turvy data. So CJ, while we're on the equity side of life, let's talk about some of your trades before we get into crypto, because obviously crypto looks very interesting, and let's save that for the latter half.
I actually have more crypto trades than like equity trades right now. Really, all I have in terms of equities are well, not even equities, but just futures, is the bean oil position we talked about, just a regular short earlier this morning. Cocoa didn't really do anything today, kind of rallied back against me. CL is very interesting the way it sold off today, but you kind of just gotta, there wasn't really that much of a news failure, so kind of hesitant to jump in to oil, but it has been very correlated with the DXY, so we'll see if that relationship continues. Bought a little bit of Coinbase earlier in the day before it filled the gap, but we'll see if this rally kind of holds. What do you think of that, Monte? Let's talk about the crypto equities before we go straight into them.
Well, Coinbase has that news of the international futures, which is definitely a big boost, I think.
Yeah, that's a huge revenue stream for them. And I think Base is still very, very underrated. Go ahead, Monte.
Yeah, no, I agree with both. Both of those statements are very true. I think Base is still not exactly factored into the price of Coinbase's stock. If you think about what it is, basically like its own cryptocurrency that you're basically adding on to an already publicly traded stock like Coinbase. So that bolsters a lot of value, and I agree that it's not fully priced in. As for where we go from here, I think it's clear that these are the risk bastions for traders right now. Like, people aren't necessarily, there are some crypto assets, things like Maker and others, and like some OG DeFi assets that are up big today. But I'd say the biggest moves are in the crypto related equities, things like Coinbase. And we've been talking about this for quite a while, but these are the best vehicles for exposure if you are a medium to large size crypto trader, right? And if you believe in the positive price action of Bitcoin, and you believe that this is something that's going to be sustained, then this is showing signs of independent strength into the equity markets. We don't typically see this sort of outperformance. We haven't seen that in quite some time. So to see it today is very encouraging. And I think it's just translating even more so to the crypto related equities. So Coinbase, for one, I think this is exactly what we were kind of waiting for. CJ and I were talking about, what would be the trigger for entry. And for me, closing the day like this would fit the bill for trigger for entry, because we've come up, closed this gap. Anyone that wanted to take profit that bought down here had the chance to do so here. We might get a couple of days of consolidation, but in the long term, I think that this thing continues to grind higher, based on the fact that I think Bitcoin continues to grind higher. And you can say the same thing about Mara, which has been beat up even worse, and thus showing a stronger reaction. Going back to the put call equity ratio, there were a lot of people that were banking on this one heading back down towards the $5 level, but that does not seem to be the case anymore. So we got this nice bullish engulfing candle. However, we have seen more extreme instances in the past, which have only been followed by continuation to the downside. Nonetheless, that wasn't necessary. That was met with Bitcoin strength, and there was a lot more volume here. But at the same time, you can't look at this and say that this isn't somewhat encouraging. Same thing for Riot, coming back into that critical zone where we see a lot of Riot traded hands. So I think just keep an eye on the put call equity ratios, keep an eye on the volume. If tomorrow we see Bitcoin up and we see Coinbase's volume up, I would consider that, that would check off all my boxes for a trigger for entry. And I'd be looking to put on a call spread perhaps some covered calls aiming towards the $95 range. So that's basically what I think with the crypto related equities right now. And I think, at the end of the day, it just comes down to the fact that those are the best vehicles of exposure for people that are looking to get exposure to Bitcoin. Because what else are you going to do? Like, is a hedge fund going to just go on and OTC buy Bitcoin? It's not likely. Chris points out, I'm ignoring your first comment, Chris, on purpose. But he points out that there's unusual activity in Riot and Mara today. Not surprising given the fact that they are moving, but that is encouraging. So I do think that we see continuation in both those stocks. I think we see Bitcoin continue to grind higher. And on the back of that, we see the crypto related equities perform very well. So Coinbase for me, CJ, we've been talking about it basically every day in Money in Motion, but I think it's finally getting to that point where I'm ready to enter. It's checking off those boxes. What do you think? You think it's time?
I just told you I bought some. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I mean, look, it's always very important to manage risk. The good thing about Coinbase here, especially if you're looking at it from like a call spread perspective or a shorter term perspective, like we have a very nice bullish engulfing candle there, and it's just the risk is defined. So in my mind, it's a quality setup, and there's probably a lot of trapped shorts. And paper in Riot and Merit today from Chris in the comments, that's just more confluence to the overall idea. So we'll see how ultimately plays
just
out.
To pull the chart back up, this is like a classic cartel pattern too. You'll see this a lot on crypto. It's you make local lows, sweep the local lows, jump back up into the range, and then you target the top end of the range where the previous local highs were. So in my opinion, and this is, we're talking stocks and not crypto with much more liquidity and action, but just baseline, you're expecting mid-range here, which is going to be the local high from what is that, early September, late August. So I would target that level first. And then if you can get above that level, then definitely those highs from, I think, back in July, mid-July would be the next target. So, and obviously, definitely if Bitcoin and Ethereum are participating, then it's going to make it a much better trade, in my opinion. But that's a fantastic crypto pattern right there that many people will get long onto. So I very much agree with you guys there.
The cartel, may I ask
cartel?
What makes that a cartel
meme
pattern?
At this point, but it's fun. Go ahead, say that again.
It's just a meme.
Yeah, I mean the cartel is just knocked my mic, but the cartel is Binance or whatever.
No, I understand that, but how is that infected its way into the NASDAQ?
I don't know.
I guess BlackRock is the crypto cartel.
It's just the cartel pattern is what I call it, because every time it sweeps those lows, like not every time, but 9 times out of 10, you're gonna at least run mid range. So,
Nick's like a paranoid. Nick's like a paranoid tourist that wandered off the resort. He sees the cartel everywhere he looks.
Yeah, it's ever like I turn around. It's like I turn around and he's sitting in the sewer. So. But just a quick little update. Equities bouncing off the weekly VWAP right here, so that's definitely a good sign while we're chatting. Just wanted to pull that up. But let's go ahead and move over to Bitcoin, because I'm sure a lot of people are excited. This is the most green we have seen since mid-September. Go ahead and I'm
feels
gonna
good.
Say that again, Monte.
I said feels good. Feels good.
No, it does feel good. So we've obviously got these highs up here, which are going to be critical because very difficult to break through, obviously, on the 18th and 19th of September. And then for some reason, I don't know what happened to my open interest, but I found this very fascinating tracking things today. So if we kind of zoom out, open interest has been just sitting in a range. And, just to kind of give credence to the cartel pattern today, swept the lows down here and then jumped up to the top end of where the open interest resistance is. So if we, I have a feeling if we do end up getting to this 27.4 level, it's going to coincide with the resistance hitting open interest hitting resistance up here. So if we can actually get above, we can break up on open interest, get above 98K and get above 27.4K. I am definitely not afraid to say that 28.1 is in the cards. And we could potentially start, busting out of this crappy little range that we've been in, at least temporarily. So I'm hopeful, but we do have to remember that this is going to be a tough nut to crack. So I wouldn't get uber bullish if you weren't long from earlier today. But, I think after maybe some consolidation, maybe a little tap down here, it's plausible. But invalidation would be back beneath this high right here. So if we break below 26.8, 26.9, the bulls are going to be running for the hills, in my opinion. So what are you guys thinking? I know, Monte, you're still in that ETH BTC trade, which we'll go over ETH next, but or if you want to just kind of take it over right now, but anything standing out on the Bitcoin chart? I just thought the open interest was fascinating because it's you could definitely short and long based on this at certain times. So
yeah, it's a nice looking U there in the open interest.
Yeah.
You don't.
That's what you want on coin, right? That's the goal, right?
Yeah, that is. But yeah, you're right. I have been trading ETH BTC, as you guys know. That's been kind of what I've been looking at in the last couple of weeks here, and I am so long ETH BTC. So let me just briefly pull up that chart here. And Nick and I have been talking about this descending triangle here for quite some time, and as you can see, it is a critical level for a reason. We got resistance there yesterday, seeing some sell pressure come in today. Bitcoin actually is catching up to ETH in terms of price action. It is up about 1% more, as you can see, but still, nonetheless, this is encouraging. And also, you have nice volume coming in, and I expect this to break back into the zone here. And really, I'm making kind of the same point, sound like a broken record, but when you see overextensions beyond points of critical natures, and clearly this point is defined as critical, like you can see it here, again here, and then again yesterday here, and even today, and then this downward sloping trend line has been proven to be critical on many occasions. When you get overextended, you tend to snap back with a bit of vigor. So I think that if I had to guess, and that's what speculation is guessing, I would say that we get a move up into this range, come back down, test this level before heading back up higher, maybe not with this velocity, but heading back up, testing the top of this range, heading back down, and kind of forming that formation. I think that's the most likely scenario for ETH BTC. So if you're not in it yet, what you could do is just wait for this part right here where we kind of circle back down and touch this critical line right here and then bounce back up. But either way, I really like this pairs trade in terms of ETH showing relative strength into Bitcoin. And I think it's, looking poised to continue here in the coming days. So when we're risk on, I think that's kind of where you want to be looking. And that's where I'm looking right now. And what's nice is I don't necessarily need to, worry about liquidations nearly as much as I would if I'm trading in the US dollar pair. But we talked a lot about that yesterday. So no need to beat a dead horse on that point.
And just to add context on why ETH looks attractive and why I agree with Monte on that is, I don't know if we posted like 10 tweets in the BTC community to make sure everyone was updated, but an Ethereum futures ETF is expected to be approved as early as today, as late as next Monday. So that's obviously, and that's a double-edged sword, because when the Bitcoin futures ETF launched, was not pretty. But there was a run up into it. And so there's many, and I let's talk about this for a second, CJ and Monty, because I think this is important. Obviously, we've got PCE tomorrow. There's a lot of this higher for longer conversation. Equities just got beat down. We're having a nice little bounce back today, and for good reason. I like the news, but we have to remember context. So if an Ethereum futures ETF gets launched Monday, Tuesday, are we selling that news? Do we think that has the paradigm shifted? Do we not need to sell a futures ETF, similar to what everyone did for Bitcoin previously, or is this a nothing burger? And I'm kind of going back and forth in my mind. I like longs into early next week, but thinking about, I'm trying to plan the next trade too, so I think we would be more than likely to have a nice little sell-off on that. I don't think doom, gloom, new lows automatically, but something we have to consider.
Monte, any thoughts on these events?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this ETF is as big of news as that BlackRock ETF was for Bitcoin. I mean, it is still big news. Don't get me wrong. And I do agree with you, Nick, that we might see a brief pullback following that actual announcement. But I don't see it having nearly the same effect as the Bitcoin ETF and the news surrounding that and the subsequent price action. So for me, I think it's going to be more of, a non-event. But I do see where you're coming from, Nick, and getting a possible pullback, just a slight one, following that news.
Yeah, I think always important to remember buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So,
Yeah.
After they launch or close to launch, probably a good idea to chill on, clicking the green button incessantly. But, I think there's a good chance that we have, that we can push up into October if there isn't any more bad news. Now, Gary Gensler in the SEC could always surprise us. That's always, sitting in the back pocket. But I think you can be a little bit optimistic unless we pull back into the weekend. And then in that case, then it would be a little bit more worrisome. So did you have something, CJ? Sorry if I interrupted.
I forgot. It's just like more of a reactionary thing, honestly. Oh, so if we were at more of like the top of an uptrend with this ETF, like, yeah, I'd be more likely a buy the rumor, sell the news type event. But like,
yeah, it's a good point as well. Based on where we're at, I don't.
Yeah, and we've seen just really depressed fear and greed indexes amongst equities, and you can just tell like people on Twitter are just really unhappy. So we'll see if the short squeeze continues, but I don't have the ability to predict like any of that.
Can I? Yeah. I mean, no one has the ability to predict. No one's.
You guys don't bat 100. Or I guess, what is it?
Well, I don't even try. The point is, like, I don't even try.
No, yeah, you gotta try. If you guys don't mind, I'd like to quickly just deliver a little bit of alpha to the audience. And this is, like we said, no one can predict the future. And like we always say, no indicator is really a leading indicator, right? Most are, trailing indicators. But one that is a leading indicator is volume, and not just trading volume, but tweet volume as well. And take a look at this here. Put this full screen. Up 139% trading volume in the last 24 hours is banned protocol. That is staggering. Up 238% in terms of tweet volume. But I mean, this number right here, 12.17 million, and prices, this is what the chart looks like. Okay, so running into a bit of resistance here. We also saw distribution in these wicks, but I think if we close today,
that's a breakout.
Yeah. If we close
on the downtrend, you could draw a line from up to April.
Oh yeah, right. Like a descending, triangle.
Yeah,
for sure.
Descending wedge.
If you put this on the body of each one of these candles, we're breaking out here. And furthermore, like I said, one of the only indicators that I give credence to as kind of a leading indicator is volume, and we're seeing nice volume with banned protocol. Not only that, but also if you look at the Trade the Chain dashboard, giving you a glimpse at it here, some really strong sentiment behind it as well. So this is one I think that's worth putting on your radar as a possible long. outperforming Bitcoin significantly, up 9%. And I think that it has a possibility of continuing as long as Bitcoin continues its uptrend. So like I'm looking for high beta altcoins, and I think that this is one of them. So if we see continuation in Bitcoin, then I see no problem with taking a long in Band protocol. And even when you're going long, consider going long with the Band BTC pair, because if there is, a crash, then you're a lot less likely to get liquidated than you are if you're trading in the USDT pair, because Bitcoin will likely be going down as well alongside Band protocol, thus making your position more neutral as opposed to if it were just flat USDT. So that's one asset that I like as a possible one to the upside. It just has strong sentiment, very strong volume today, and it still has almost 6 hours left in today's candle to continue that volume. So just wanted to put that on everyone's radar as a possible play this week and into the weekend.
Another thing that
Yeah, just add some more
that
data.
sometimes another thing, a benefit, Monty, sometimes you'll see when you have assets that have like independent strength that are kind of like liquidating shorts continually on the way up. Sometimes Bitcoin will even be flat or like down 50 bips or a percent, and you'll still see, outperformance in the BTC pair. So I think that's also something that, of course, doesn't always happen, but is
that's a great
more than you think.
And Band isn't on the like heavy funding list either, so it's not primarily perp driven, which is also a good thing, because if it was, then I would maybe be like maybe look for shorts instead of look for longs after that boost. But considering it's not on the list of cartel attacks or crazy people getting long indiscriminately, it does seem that it's probably spot driven as well as perps, which is also a great sign. So good call there, Monty. One thing I just wanted to point out on ETH, because I do like the setup, and I think we've these highs up here around 1750 are really looking juicy. But we do have to also understand that it's been 3 times over multiple weeks in September that we've been unable to crack 1670. So this, I don't want to get crazy bullish on here without also giving you the flip side and being also real. But if we can flip this, this is all free reign to me. And CJ, Monty, what do you got? I mean, there's no really resistance, in my opinion, other than kind of 17 flat. So if we can get over 1670, I would expect it to be one of those things where you do see a laser up, and we haven't seen one of those in a while, and it's very plausible. If 1670 can be broken. So just wanted to add that final note, because that does seem important in my mind.
It's like we're all just sitting in the summoning circle here, trying to summon the pump.
Literally. And I think the OI looks a lot better on ETH too, gradually rising. It flattened out, it pretty much the lows were, right near this bottom tick around 1530. So it does look set up. It's just, we need to get above 1670, and I'll probably start throwing a lot of money at the wall again. So
you guys like shorts? You want to see some shorts?
You got some shorts for us, CJ?
I hope you're not talking about what you're wearing.
Like, are you talking clothing? Did you hit up Neiman Marcus, get some new shorts?
Come on, gentlemen, don't be ridiculous.
Gentlemen. That's a good one. More like degenerates.
I like the bullish plays. I like the bullish ideas. I also am interested in fading the GTC sentiment at certain points, because on the 15-minute, that could at least come down in the short term. We'll see. But I think there is an interesting idea of at least pursuing kind of the opposite interpretation in certain instances. But we'll see. Something that has actually held its ground, Luna. But if Bitcoin sells off, these are things that I expect to kind of go down with it. Luna is one. If we break these levels or are unable to create a new higher high, that's one that will likely, in my opinion, would revisit something like 47 cents. Another something or another asset that we just saw a pretty interesting rejection, at least on the 15-minute chart. And I would look for an hourly close on that. But that's a pretty good indication of weakness and like a false breakout. This is a really crazy one-day chart as well. So even if, I'm unable to catch a short today on this particular move from roughly, 1 cent to 2, so almost a 200 to 300% move in this particular asset, there will be a time eventually, I think, to fade this. But for now, it's quite a move. And I think it's interesting and will likely continue to have volatility in the coming days, which will likely be able to create opportunity for you as long as you remain flexible. WorldCoin as well. I see a lot of celebrating on Twitter from large influencers, which probably means they're secretly unloading some, if I had to guess. But Nick, is this a cartel pattern? Because I have seen this one before, where initial pump and then
that's like what like Sui, Arb. We could pick out a few. That's the VC funding pattern. Is overinvest, sell on the launch, and then pray your market makers kill all. But it's hitting that first local low from where back like before August. So this is definitely where you expect it to take a break. I mean, it's up nearly 100%, 80% from the lows. So I wouldn't be shorting yet. I would probably short what's that local high from between the 11th and the 18th? What's that number, like 1.7 maybe? If we break back beneath that, then I probably get short.
Yeah, I already am short a little bit because
this is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite coins to short. Sorry to interrupt.
If Bitcoin sells off into the Asian session, like these ones are just probably going to fall like 5%. But if they don't, can stop out for a few percent loss, and the risk to reward, I think, in that particular situation could be favorable to the downside. But you could also hold longs in something like ETH in a more weekly term view. One of our viewers makes a good point about BTC looking pretty nice on the weekly chart. I think when you're trading a different time frame like the weekly chart, that's also something to consider, and kind of thinking about maybe hedging in the interim with some of these other high beta coins that maybe have gotten a little too far ahead of themselves, at least in the short term. But interested in your guys' kind of opinions or takes on those setups. Monte, please tell me I'm wrong in some way, or let's hear the devil's advocate view to some of that stuff.
Well, no, I think you added a really good caveat because, we did talk a little bit about some bullish bets and obviously a little euphoric after, 2, 3, 4% gains today. And there is a chance to head higher. But, in my opinion, we called out, we're sitting at resistance right now for Bitcoin and Ethereum. You never, ever get long at resistance after a 4% boost in a bear market. So best to let things cool off a little bit and wait for some more bullish setups. Like for Bitcoin, the make or break for me, like I said before, is, 28K or 26.8, 26.9. We hold this high. We hold, where we dipped, down before and where we got held up, back in mid-September. We can hold that level. We'll move higher, so, and for ETH, there's a lot of room here, but I wouldn't be shocked if we tagged 1630 before moving higher. So best to, let things cool off. And like CJ said, the Asia session could also, completely go topsy-turvy. They could sell everything we bought today, and not blink twice about it. So best to be careful. We are, remember, heading into PE tomorrow. It is common to see boosts into what is expected to be a decent inflation print. So, it's now I think is going to be a little bit more defensive. And then if the US session presents opportunities tomorrow morning, like it did today, then you can be offensive. So that's how I would play 24 hours into the weekend.
All right, you want devil's advocate? I'll give you devil's advocate, my friend. Listen, one thing that can happen, and I've seen happen several times, is when Bitcoin spikes up like it's doing today, and ETH spikes up, and we have things like comp up 18% is I can't guarantee you anything, but what I can guarantee you is that crypto traders are greedy people. And the people that are left here are greedy market participants. And when they see these big charts, these big bar candles, they're going to say what CJ just said and say, this isn't sustainable. Or they're going to say what Nick just said. And they're going to say, let's let this cool off a little bit. And they may even try and short it. And what that's basically doing is like pouring gas in a fire. And then this thing shoots up another 3% and squeezes out even more shorts. So I think one thing that could plausibly happen, and you asked for devil's advocate. I'm not saying that this is what I think is going to happen, but it very well could, is that people try and people try and fade this rally that we're getting here today. And as a result, they get squeezed out by some spot buying, and the rally continues, and the assets that are showing high beta continue to show high beta. That would be the scenario in which I think, would be kind of the opposite of what you were talking about there. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility whatsoever, because, if you see something like comp up 19%, you might look at that and be like, oh man, that's an easy short in retracement. And, that thing's definitely going to cool off. People are going to take profits. And then you get the shorts piling in, and all it does is push price higher. So watch out for that during the Asian session. I think it is a possibility. But for the most part, I would say I agree with you that, a lot of these coins are gonna retrace their moves. But I think it's gonna be slower than people think.
Yeah, I'm aware of those possibilities. I've experienced them, so how could I not?
Yeah, I know you're.
But,
I know you're.
I think I've talked before about how it's the classic Niederhofer line to say if you're going to make a short trade, make it a fourth the size or half the size you would of a long trade. And so as long as you can understand that the risk is very, very fine at some of those levels, and as long as the risk to reward I think is defined, then it could still work out. But perhaps, shorting, maybe that worked last week with the stock market going down. Maybe it's time to pivot to longs and things in ETH, which I do. I like I said, bought some longs in coin. So we'll see ultimately how it works. But I think as long as the risk is very low and defined and you're comfortable with that, you can find your own way.
And if you want to just be patient and you're like, I missed all volatility, I'm going to go sit on the beach or sit at the pool this weekend. The two big things that I'm looking for to potentially change my bias or a momentum flip is tomorrow PCE. If it's very bad, that's not good. If it's, fantastic, that could completely change the course of where equities and crypto are headed. And then the reaction to the ETH futures launch next week, or expected. Nothing is obviously certain, but VanEck's already doing marketing, so we'll see. So Monday, Tuesday, if ETH futures launch and ETH drops 4%, that's going to change. That's going to change my bias in going into October. But right now, my bias is leaning much more positive than where it was in August and September. So, any final notes, guys? We've been at it for about 45 minutes today. So,
no, I got nothing else. I'm feeling the same as you, Nick. I'm feeling good about the markets for the first time in quite a while here. So, hopefully, we get some continuation. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks everyone for watching, except for Chris. Yeah.
All righty. Well, you know where to find us, www.tradethechain.com, 14-day free trial. You get access to sentiment data, market data, trade calls, trade ideas, every macro news update known to man. And you've got me, CJ, and Monte pretty much on demand at your fingertips. And then do not forget, I should say, that we are working with both BingX and Didex. So fantastic trading venues, depending on what your risk tolerance is, whether you want a centralized exchange with BingX or a decentralized exchange with Didex. And there's plenty of rewards and opportunities for you to earn on top of just your regular trading. So With that being said, good luck. Happy trading. See everybody on Monday.